Donnybrook is made possible by the support of the Betsy and Thomas Patterson Foundation and the members of 9PBS.
You may have heard that some more subpoenas were delivered in connection with the events at the Capitol on January 6th. And by the way, Charlie is off for the next 2 weeks. Now, this is Alvin Reid. I'm sitting in for Charlie. We have guests tonight, but we're going to start with Wendy Wiese from KTRS. Joe Holleman sitting in for Bill McClellan this week of the Post-Dispatch. Ray Hartmann, one of our founders from KTRS and also rawstory.com. And Christine Byers from KSDK. Joe, I'm going to start with you. Our carpenters union doesn't exist anymore. I guess it's been taken over. You know, is that the right term to use? But we're being run by the Chicago outfit.
I was just saying,
don't
say outfit. I think outfit in Chicago has a whole other meaning.
But what is going on, seriously?
Well, you know, and I wish I could shed some light on that because it is highly unusual and not ideal to have an out-of-town outfit to run a local union. I just have a feeling there's so much more to this story that we don't know. Do know that they backed some projects. The union did, the carpenters union did. But this is a pretty drastic measure, and I just have a feeling that we're scratching the surface of this story. I think there's more to report.
And I would like to add that there's more than just the carpenters who are affected by this. I mean, how many other groups are part of that union? I know for one, the corrections officers in the city of St. Louis belong to it, and we all know that they've gone through a pretty hard time this year with things not going so well at the Criminal Justice Center downtown and at the other workhouse place. So, I mean, there's a lot of people affected by this and a lot of uncertainty out there right now.
Well, and it's hard to imagine what kind of an impact the Carpenters Union support of somebody like Steve Stenger or Mark Montavani, Better Together, would have in Chicago. And it made me feel a little, because when Chicago is taking the moral high ground, that's kind of does make you wonder what's going on at the local level. But it is not just St. Louis, correct? It is also Kansas City.
Yes.
So yeah, I don't know what's taking so long, but you're right. This story will be developing.
And it's very rare for a union to get that sideways that they're basically dissolved in essence because they backed wrong candidates or did questionable projects. Unions have done that for a long time. Right. This is a drastic move, and I just think there's more news to come out of it.
Do you think it was the back-to-back-to-back-to-back failures?
I don't.
In politics, not at all.
Okay.
I don't. I think Joe's right. I think we're gonna know more. Come back 6 months from now, or a year, maybe next month. I don't know. This story feels like it's going to go in different directions.
This story has legs.
And that it's not going to
Exactly.
be about. It can't be about, oh, gee, they supported the airport expansion. They gave $350 to Montavani. I mean, it's got to be something. And I have to say, we hear more about the Carpenters Union in that context of political. I didn't know that the carpenter. I just always thought it was carpenters. But I mean, I just didn't know. And so I think it's going to be an interesting. I don't think we've heard the last of it. A
lot of unions now have been put into a position. I'm a member of the United Media Guild, which is now actually a division of the Communication Workers of America.
Wow.
And there are people that get organized for union protection that's not trade specific like it used to be, just because there's not as many unions around. So there's strength in numbers. So you have these small groups of people or correction workers where they're looking for a union, and unions are out actively trying to recruit members because of their dwindling numbers. So it's not as unusual now as it was 25 years ago. I wasn't surprised when I found out that the correction workers were part of some other union. They were looking for representation, looking for expert bargainers when it comes time for their contract, and they feel better with a union. And it may not be like old school correction workers union, there's these big
Right.
umbrella organizations.
So
Well,
you're
at
here
one
as a communicator. Then. I didn't realize that. I thought you were from the Post. You're here as a communications
A communications guy, a worker,
God.
and an American.
Okay,
At
well, there you go.
one time,
I'll roll
I don't think it can be.
All right,
I
At
don't
one
think it can
time,
be
I
all of
thought
those.
that the nurses unions and the grocery store workers were actually, that was under the same umbrella, was it not?
Well, you look. I don't know about that, but I mean, you look at the Teamsters. There's a lot of people under the Teamsters union.
And when I was at Lansing, we were guild shop. In a roundabout way, we were part of the Teamsters union. I never could figure that out, but the benefits and the pay was really good. All right, now this seems really Fargo-like. I'm sorry. This is about money. Would you
It does
all
seem
agree
like-
that
it
this
does
is
seem
some
like-
kind of roundabout way about money?
Isn't everything?
I was going to say pretty much everything we talk about on this show boils down to
It's
money.
always follow the money.
Always.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep.
Sometimes through Switzerland, but we'll find out.
We will find out. Right. All right. At Parkway Central last Thursday, actually, I guess it was on Wednesday, racist graffiti was found. There was a student walkout on Thursday. Students followed up at Parkway North. The next day, it has since been learned that a black student actually wrote the graffiti. There was, outcry, lots of comments on this, any story that ran anywhere on social media. Christine, where does this leave us now in the aftermath of what occurred at the end of last week?
Sure. So it's an act of vandalism, right? And we should preface this by saying we don't know if this was just a kid who wanted to get out of class and this is what they did. But what I find troubling about it is that it just has gone so silent ever since the race of the person who did this was revealed. It's still a racial issue, and it was sort of used in this way that caused a major disruption, caused a lot of discussion that went on, and now it's just dissipated as if it hasn't happened. And I think there's a lot more discussion that needs to happen with it.
Well, and what's so unbelievable, and then when I preface something by saying, it's just unbelievable, and then I think back to when I was in grade school or junior high school or whatever. And I was essentially a potato. I mean, when I would hear about threats being called in, I didn't know the gravity or the scope of it. I mean, I knew it was probably a prank, but it still got everybody out of class. But what I hope this young person's parents are explaining is we're culpable enough as a nation without making stuff up. And when you make stuff up during a very highly charged period, a very highly charged racial period in our country, you're really muddying the waters or muddling the waters.
Well, a couple of things that popped to my mind was one, I think for some reason we've decided that one of the prime motivators of teenagers is not getting out of school. And so I think there was a certain segment of the population who, when they saw it happen, said, that's what it was, like pulling a fire alarm.
Yes.
Like calling in a bomb threat.
Yes.
Not that there aren't bomb threats and fires somewhere, but it was used to get out of school. That was a possibility.
Right.
But we have become, so many things get run through the filter of race that this became immediately the first story where it seemed as if it was going toward a white student wrote it and black students walked out. Media loved that story. Then when they found out it was a black student, media loved that story too because it was clicks. And I think the thing is, when you talk about that with muddy in the water, and I agree with the point that it doesn't mean that racism is no longer an issue, but what it did was serve to trivialize it as an issue.
That's right.
And I think that's where the danger comes in. So if there's any talk being had, is to say, I get that you did whatever you did, but now what you've done is you've given people an out to say,
See?
how big of a problem is it? See,
I also-
you contributed to the trivialization of a major problem.
But this isn't, I don't disagree with that, but I would say that this is the currency with which we discuss race. These kinds of stories, the outrages, the micro stories, instead of talking about the larger racial issues that are most definitely there, and not just at Parkway, just throughout our culture. And as you say, there's a huge racial divide. I don't think this trivialized it so much as it played in to our it's our currency, it's the inherent trivialization of this subject. And because it's such good clickbait, as you point out, it doesn't matter which direction it went. And I think some people want to say, oh, look at those protesters, look how stupid they look. Well, they really don't, because they didn't know. And their expression of rage reflects their overall frustration. So it's just, you know, it'd be nice if we could actually talk about these issues other than in the little clickbait.
Am I unusual in that for 15 years, maybe more, comment section, the blacker the person sounds on the comment, the whiter I think they might be, and vice versa.
Yeah.
For some reason, I just kind of like have always said, nah. And that's kind of how I was on this too. I was like, listen, odds are that it was a white student, but I'm not shocked that it turned out to be a black student. Now, I like what you're saying, Joe, in that why do we have to jump like, oh, somebody was making a statement, a point, where somebody just did something stupid because they had a test that day. So I'm guilty of that. I'll be the first to admit.
I think it boiled down to where everything is boiled down to now. Are you red or are you blue? Click a box, let's move on. Click a box, let's move on. And there is no discussion. It's just what side are you on? And then everybody votes. Now we go to something else, the new flavor of the moment.
But anything that deepens the divide between us, as Christine said, is really dangerous. It feels dangerous because you have given a lot of people an excuse to just tune out and turn off and all of that.
Yep, like both sides wanted to believe the worst about the other side immediately.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's sad.
It is sad.
Well, in August 22, I think we're going to have to click a box, or at least Republicans are, for their next candidate for Senate. And Eric Greitens picked up some very impressive endorsements, Rudy Giuliani and Michael Flynn and some other folk. Ray, I think that helps him. I think in Missouri, the more far right you are, the more votes you're going to attract.
First of all, I don't know that I'd go with the characterization impressive and Rudy Giuliani, and you know, I mean, unless you're like in a shirt tucking contest or something. I don't think it. First of all, endorsements writ large don't really matter very much. Obviously, in the Republican Party, the last, you know, the wannabe dictator, his endorsement helps in Baltimore, helps in the Republican primary. There's no question about that. I don't think Michael Flynn and Rudy Giuliani, I mean, are just cartoon characters. I don't think they matter. I do think, and I know you're going to say it's wishful thinking, I think this kind of thing probably helps you know, the Democrats, and I do not think it is a foregone conclusion that the Republicans are going to win this race. It's a long way to go, and if whether it's Eric Greitens as the candidate, who is clearly something, that prospect freaks out the Republican Party, or it's somebody in a very divided race, like I would guess Eric Schmidt is technically the front runner. I don't think this is not like running against Roy Blunt, where you can just check it in the box. I think this could be a competitive race, and we'll see. It'll be interesting to see. This is the end of the quarter. It'll be interesting to see if Lucas Kuntz, who I know isn't a household word here, who raised $1 million in a hurry in the first quarter. It'll be interesting to see what he did in the second quarter and what Scott Sifton did, who's a very respected former state senator who was blown away in the fundraising, which is not nothing. And so the Democrats, both of them have a chance, I think, if the Republicans are divided. So I don't think in the general it's going to help them at all.
How much can these endorsements help Greitens overcome his image of being accused of sexual assault?
Rudy and Michael Flynn? I mean, these are guys who are not exactly, I mean, they're like convicts.
Well, one was pardoned, I guess, is the other one might need a pardon. But I'm telling you, you said they're like cartoons, and I don't mean this in a facetious way about all of us that live in the state of Missouri, but in many ways we're a cartoon state right now. Because, man, every time you turn around, we're making national news for all the wrong reasons.
Well, we're presuming a lot.
Yes.
We don't know how Eric Greitens is going to perform in debates on the platform, because we really have, on any platform, because we haven't seen him in action in quite a while, except when he was in Kansas City giving masks away and that kind of thing. But I think you're underestimating. I mean, the Republican Party is as divided as the Democratic Party, and there are still a lot of people who maybe they're thinking that Greitens is doing he's doing a fine job. But if you get too many outlier type endorsements, I think that will ultimately end up hurting him.
Yeah.
I really do.
I think, first of all, I thank you for mentioning the point, as if the Missouri Democratic Party marched with one voice.
Right,
Oh my
or the
God.
national,
I thought
or
that
the
was,
National Democratic Party.
Yeah, I think that's a precious idea
Democrats,
that doesn't
Joe. They're
exist.
Democrats.
Sure.
Right.
And I think it was rallying the troops. It was the preaching to the choir. I think that the people who are already predisposed to support Eric Greitens will be heartened that Flynn and Giuliani showed up for him.
Right.
Do I think it's got someone sitting on there, and we're going to paint it as the analytical, let me look at this, that they're going to go, hey, Flynn and Giuliani, that swings my vote.
Yeah.
I think what it did is it basically just rah-rahed everybody already ready to vote for Eric Greitens.
And certainly the people that are ready to vote for him supported Trump, right? And Trump had his fair share of sex scandals as well.
Certainly.
So maybe the whole image of, being a law-abiding and moral person isn't so
But the
appealing anymore,
Republicans get to have a choice before the general
true.
between Schmidt or whomever, so they get to pick the one who doesn't have the sex crime in their history.
We think.
And well, we could say that about any candidate. We think
Right.
that none of them will have sex crimes
Right.
there, because again, Missouri Democrats never do that.
No.
But I mean, so the idea is the primary is a whole different animal
But you got,
than the general.
You also got to make sure you wait a little bit, because right now there's 5 primary main candidates that are announced, and that would be the 2 we've been talking about, Schmidt and Greitens, and then also Mark the gun waiver McCloskey from St.
again,
Louis.
but speaking of
and then
cartoons,
2,
yeah.
no, and then exactly, and then two congressional candidates, Vicky Hartzler, who's been getting a lot of ink just every time she can get in front of a camera now on trying to be very Trumpy. And then Billy Long from Southwest Missouri, from Springfield. But Jason Smith also wants to get in, who's from Southeast Missouri. And that would be 6. And it's tough for congressmen because they don't have the statewide,
Name recognition.
But
yeah.
we really, there won't be 6 next August. So there won't be 6. And so a lot of it's math. In Greitens would like there to be 20, okay? His math is that it's Greitens, he's got a certain loyal core, and it's not that big. Right. But a little bit of what happened in 2016, where the mainstream Republicans divide their vote up. A lot of this is going to come down to the math as to how many of those candidates want to stay in. And,
Okay. All right. Well, we mentioned Derek Schmidt. Okay. Well, he got slapped down in Boone County as far as just one big class action. You cannot force people to wear masks in public school districts. And he's vows to continue on with the mask mandates in St. Louis County, although he never seems to mention St. Louis City, which has been ongoing, which he knows he's going to lose, 9 out of 10 votes, so he's not too concerned with St. Louis for some reason. But Wendy, where are we going with all this? And the Attorney General, is it all about your rights, or is it all about I'm trying to win the nomination for Senate?
The latter. The latter. What's really fascinating about this is that Eric Schmidt, his adversary right now is the county executive. I mean, they're going back and forth, and this is, it's all great political theater. And they're both using it probably fairly effectively, But what made me laugh was that the Schmidt spokesperson, Chris Newell, said, the people of Missouri are tired of this, and we're not going to take it anymore, and we're going to expose these bureaucrats for what they really are, and we're not going to wear. And these are the same people who have been fighting these mask mandates since day one. It's not like they've ever gotten on board and said, okay, yeah, they've been fighting this tooth and nail. I think Eric Schmidt has to be, I would advise him, if he cared, which of course he wouldn't, just to not go all in on this issue. I think there's a lot of COVID exhaustion at this point, and if that's the hill you're going to die on politically, and if that's the way you want to be identified by the voters, I think that's a dicey proposition right now.
And a lot of the COVID fatigue has to do with wearing masks.
Yeah.
So,
well,
I mean, you also have to look at that too. People are just tired of wearing them. Now, me, being a libertarian, I'm all for letting local school boards decide. I am all for taking every decision down to the smallest governmental group.
Right.
You know, so I don't like it when Republicans take a position statewide to tell everybody what to do. Same as I don't like when Democrats take statewide positions telling everybody what to do from Jefferson City. So I'm sort of with you.
He really,
go ahead, Christine.
He really wants St. Louis County voters.
Oh, yes.
And I think he is very much betting on the fact that there's a lot of anti-Sam Page sentiment right now. I mean, the vitriol that hit Sam Page during his sports bans, the youth sports bans that went into effect. I mean,
were at his
people
house,
have
remember?
not forgotten that.
Right.
And so even though this is about masks right now, I think there's so much resentment towards the Page administration throughout this whole thing that I think Schmidt could capitalize on that, and masks is the top.
I think he lost his constituency. I think St. Louis County is just Democratic, and I think all this wackiness hurts him. Got to move on. Joe, real fast, okay? We're talking about Democrats, which run the city government in St. Louis. Now, they got to divvy up the pie. We're going from 28 pieces to 14. How's that going to work out?
Well, it's taken 10 years to get to the point where they, you know, and as I said before, and I was only half joking, I'm not convinced that the committee doesn't get together and decide instead of reducing it by 14, they'll increase it by 14. I can't wait to see this. I want to be there to listen to every self-serving, pocket-lining speech that every single politician talks about. These are jobs they're protecting, and as we know, politicians never fight harder than when it comes down to their very own job. So I think it's going to be a three-ring circus. I think it's going to be wonderful entertainment.
I think so, absolutely. I mean, and here's what you need to know. This decision was made 10 years ago. Nothing has been done until we're right up against it. I mean, hey, listen, I love to thrive on a deadline.
I was just going to say that. We're all deadline people.
But I'm just saying that this is a little bit different.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. I was going to say
glacial.
I don't think it's an issue of intense importance to people in the political class, as it would be. It's not just about the city. Any group of politicians are going to resist structural changes that cut their number in half. I've always been in favor of a smaller amount, although I have been persuaded by some people say, everybody acts like, oh my God, we have 28, and they harken back to when it was 850,000 people. There's no question there's a change, but 10,000 isn't like that tiny. It's not really substantively that big, and I don't think most people care, to tell you the truth. I think there's probably a fair number of people in the city that like having it smaller, and they're still representing more people than a lot of county counterparts do. So, but I think that at the end of the day, to your point, I mean, it's kind of been promised as something that would happen for so long that one would think it would happen.
No, it's hard to believe, but I think it's 20 years ago now when Sharon Tyus's 20th Ward, the one that she ran, ceased to exist. And it went on from late summer, and it went on through the fall, and it went on till winter. And the late DJ Wilson and I were there when they took the final vote.
Wow.
And I'll tell you how things have changed. Later that night was the aldermanic Christmas party, and everybody who had been hollering and screaming at each other for like 4 months were all there sharing a drink.
Drinking
now,
together.
I would hope that we could get back to that. Why do I doubt it?
Yeah, those days are gone. Those days are gone.
All right, real fast, Cardinals, where are we going? Go win the World Series?
I think so.
All right.
I mean, it's an easy cop-out bet, but you don't, let's put it this way, if for Los Angeles or San Francisco, the idea that winning 105 games, the door prize is you get to play a playoff-tested team that, oh, by the way, is the hottest almost in the history of the sport. They're not pleased about a one-game series.
Oh, I'm sure they're not. You believe, Joe?
I believe that the Cardinals will win the one-game playoff.
And then after that?
Anything after that, there's too many good teams.
I copped out.
You got to play San Francisco. You're either playing LA or San Francisco. I like the one game because anything can happen in one game. The other two are the two best teams in baseball. Facing them in a 5-game series, little tougher. I'm just happy. I mean, nobody in August thought this would happen. So I'm happy they're in, and I do think they'll win the one-game playoff and make it to the semifinal.
I think the Cardinals do well on a deadline.
There you go.
There's nothing like fall ball in St. Louis. Nothing like
at some point, you got to say, well, fellas, either we got to win like 20 or 21 games, or we're done.
I mean, they really rally at the end when it counts.
Well, the interesting question, you got,
Yeah, we got to go.
Okay.
All right. We got letters. Even your temporary set is gorgeous. Made you all appear younger and as if broadcasting during 2021 and not 1950. Long, long overdue change. Thank you, Nancy Cooksey of that fabulous town of Kirkwood, Missouri. I have been surprised by the intolerance that the panelists seem to have for the unvaccinated. I am truly saddened that you all seem to think that the people who are not vaccinated are holding up progress. I mistook you for rebels, says Terry Bowen. That's all the time we have for tonight. Send your comments or questions to 3655 Olive Street or Donnybrook at 9pbs.org. And remember to tweet using hashtag DonnybrookSTL. And don't forget, if you missed Donnybrook, you can catch us later on our podcast. Stay with us for Donnybrook Next Up. Tonight we are talking Cardinals baseball with a friend of mine, Rob Reigns. Don't go anywhere. Wendy and I will be right back.
Donnybrook is made possible by the support of the Betsy and Thomas Patterson Foundation and the members of 9PBS.
Hey, Alvin Reid, Wendy, Wiese, Donnybrook Next Up. Hey, in 1991, I think my first day at USA Today Baseball Weekly in Washington, D.C., in the USA Today Tower, I had a University of Kansas football helmet on my desk, and the National League Baseball writer walked up and said, like, hey, where'd you get the football helmet? And I said, like, well, I went to KU, and I was a football manager. And he said, I went to KU, too. Well, it turns out that was this gentleman, Rob Reigns, long time at St. Louis Globe-Democrat, covering the St. Louis Cardinals, and now he's the force, he and his wife Sally, behind STLSportsPage.com. Rob, how you doing, man?
I'm great, Alvin. Great to see you. Yeah, that was a happy memory that day that we bonded there. I was just got out of school a couple years before you showed up.
Yeah, we were kind of I was getting there and he was leaving, but then we ran into each other, and then years later.
I heard you were coming. Yeah, and I went to Washington and tried to avoid you, and you showed up anyway.
And then I moved back to St. Louis, and he ultimately moved back to St. Louis, and we've been here and have covered a lot of Cardinal baseball. And Rob, this last month has been something absolutely historic.
Yeah, there's no other word to describe it. It's just unbelievable. Anytime a team goes on a run like that, well, when you know it's the longest streak of the National League since 1935, you know something special is happening, and that no Cardinal team had ever won more than 14 games in a row. So I'm sorry to see it end. You knew it had to end at some point, but what a run, what a fun time it was. And I think part of the reason it was so fun is nobody saw it coming. I mean, this was a team that was struggling to be a couple games under 500, a couple games above 500. All the injuries that they had, especially to the pitching staff. They had to remake that on the fly. And, I think everybody pretty much thought if they could finish above 500, that take it and run with it this year and try to, come back next year. But that wasn't good enough for them. And here we are going to be in a playoff game next week.
What made the difference, Rob?
I think the difference was that they got some guys in here that could help. I mean, they were trying to do a lot of young pitchers, and nothing against Johan Oviedo, and Jake Woodford has been better since he came back. But I think they were just trying to force some guys into roles that they weren't quite ready for because of the injuries. I mean, Flaherty going down for 2 months, they just couldn't really recover from that. As good as Wainwright pitched and everything, they just kind of were still just floundering around. But getting the Wade LeBlanc was the first guy that they acquired that really kind of steadied the ship a little bit. And then they made the trades for Lester and Happ, which I think at the time we all kind of thought, well, okay, this would have been good if it was 5 years ago. But, those guys came in and it pitched really well. And then you got a couple of guys in the bullpen that I don't think anybody really thought was going to be, positive additions, and TJ McFarland and Luis Garcia, and they've just been terrific. So they just kind of stabilized everything.
Well, as a guy who, had plenty of glove and not much bat, when I was playing, I appreciate the way that the Cardinals play defense. And I think that had to have kind of, like you say, stabilized them, and they quit making the bad plays in the field, and that kind of like, let's not waste a good pitching performance. Let's take advantage of it. I believe that helped as well.
Yeah, I think they're one of those teams that they do a lot of the little things well. I think that's kind of been Mike Schultz's mantra all along. It was a way he was kind of brought up in the George Kissel school of baseball, basically, the fundamentals and preaching the fundamentals and not beating yourself and hustling all the time. And, this adage of speed never goes into a slump, and it can help you on both offense and defense. And they've won games in especially during that streak. They won games by hitting, 4 home runs. They won games by turning the weirdest double plays you've ever seen. They won games with pitching, the bullpen and or starters. So, I mean, they just have, kind of been a multifaceted team. And I think that's one of their strengths is that they do have a lot of different ways they can beat them, and that they're not going to beat themselves.
Well, Cardinal Nation, as you know, Rob, when things are going south, we start throwing people overboard. And Mike Schultz is a professional. He's been in the major leagues for a very long time. Is there any insights that you can share with our viewers? You've been watching the Cardinals for a very long time. Does Mike Schultz's management style, does it remind you, is it, of any past Cardinals skipper? Is he a little bit of this one and a little bit of that one, or what makes him distinctive, if you will?
The distinction probably is he's a really nice guy. I mean, off the field, probably too nice to be a major league manager, really. I mean, he's very polite, very, appreciative of the job that he has. I've known Mike, I think, since 2012 when he was managing in the minor leagues. We first met and had developed a good relationship when he was even in Springfield and then in Memphis. So very excited when he moved to St. Louis to be on the coaching staff, and then when he got the job. I think he's a very smart baseball guy. I think he knew he had to be a smart baseball guy because his background was not as a player. I mean, he played through college but never played a game as professional, and his first coaching job was in high school in Charlotte. So I think he still kind of has that grassroots knowledge and understanding of the game. I think the other thing that he does really well is that he's a good communicator. I mean, I think he has a really good relationship with the players. I think he's got a really good feel of the control for that clubhouse. A lot of the guys in that clubhouse knew him in the minor leagues as well before they got to the big leagues. So it was an easy transition to him being the manager. And I think, he just gets along well with everybody. I mean, he's in charge. I mean, I don't want to say his politeness is a sign of timidness or weakness, because it's not. I mean, he can be very strong. We've seen him get pretty fired up about sometimes, but he's not Tony La Russa. He's not Whitey Herzog. He's probably more like Red in terms of style and in terms of just, seems like he's pretty laid back, and answering everybody's questions. It's been, I think, one thing that's been hard for him, and in a sense it's been hard for the players too, but probably the players a little bit easier than the manager, is the way, because of COVID, that everything is done by Zoom now. All of our post-game press count, other than the other night when they clinched the clinch the wild card spot, every post-game thing is on Zoom. So you just don't get that one-on-one, hey, can I ask you this kind of off the record, kind of at the side of the table, the side sessions kind of thing that sometimes you get more information. So that's kind of, he's always on, he always has to be careful with what he says, and knowing he's always on a camera and in public eye. And sometimes you don't get all the real best insight that way.
Okay, well, so I skipped some of the chapters in your career. So let's go back and we'll start out with, where'd you go to high school? Okay.
This is only a half-hour show, Alvin.
All right, so we'll start with where you went to high school, and then just how you ended up, I guess, at the Globe in the early '80s, and you were part of the Whitey Herzog era and that 1982 World Championship.
All right, I'll try to run through it as quick as I can. I grew up in Springfield, Missouri, so I'm one of those odd people that didn't go to high school in St. Louis. I moved here in 1979. But after high school, I went to the University of Kansas, as we've already established. And when I actually started work for United Press International, kind of the rival to the Associated Press in the time, after I graduated from college in the late 1970s, worked in the Kansas City Bureau for a year and a half, and then transferred to St. Louis, and was there through 1984 is when I went to the Globe Democrat, and was there for the last 3 years of the paper. They were covering the Cardinals before the paper went out of business, and then just did some other freelance stuff, and then ended up going to USA Today, as you mentioned, to start Baseball Weekly in 1991. Left there in 1995. I took a job as an adjunct journalism professor at Arizona State, a temporary one-year appointment under a grant from the Freedom Forum, and did that for a year. And then we moved back to St. Louis, and have just been here doing freelance stuff, and then starting the website in 2012 to cover the Cardinals. So,
where did you go to high school in Springfield, Missouri?
started at Glendale and then graduated from Kickapoo.
My husband is a Kickapoo chief. That's why I asked. He
We're
loved
connected everywhere, right?
Yeah, exactly. He loved your book. The name of your book escapes me, but he wanted me to ask you what it was like to write the book, because he.
I don't know which book we're specifically
Yeah, I know
referring
you've
to.
got
so I
many.
got quite a few of them, but,
You have many. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Sorry
so
about
it's
that.
hard for me to comment since I don't know which one it was. But yeah, no, Kickapoo is a great place. My mom was actually the librarian at Kickapoo when it opened for a number of years.
Wow.
You might even know my mother. So.
Yeah.
Wow, I bet he did.
Well, somebody you're familiar with co-wrote a book called Whitey's Boys with Rob here, and that was I'll always be thankful for you for that. For one, getting to interview a lot of the players from the 1982 team, as I tell people at book signings and at some other things, I got to sit next to Whitey Herzog and talk about baseball. And I know you did it many more times than I did, but could you just share what a brilliant baseball mind Whitey Herzog has, but also just what a fun guy and a gentleman Whitey Herzog is.
Well, I'll say this. Whitey managed in the right era because he didn't have to do post-game press conferences on television. He didn't have to, do things like that. I mean, he was very gruff, and he was very, if you knew him and you got along with him well, he would tell you stuff. But again, that's kind of getting back to what I was talking about Mike Schultz. We just don't get that access to guys now that we used to get, 30 years ago, 20 years ago, because there's so many more blogs and talk radio and websites and things like that there's just so many more people in the clubhouse and things like that. But, Whitey was a guy that, after everybody else had left, if you didn't have anything you had to write that night, I just would sit down there in his office and talk, and he would ask me stuff and I would tell him stuff, and it was just a great, conversations that we were able to have. And, I always enjoyed those years. I mean, I enjoyed my years at Baseball Weekly because I got to do a lot of fun stuff that I would never have done. But I honestly think had the Globe Democrat never gone out of business, I probably would still be there covering the Cardinals full time today, because I always said it was my dream job. It was the job I wanted as a kid. I got it at 28 years old, and, unfortunately had it taken away from me at no fault of my own, but that was just the nature of the business at the time.
Do we want to play the Giants or do we want to play LA? That's the question on everybody's mind, especially if it's a one and done situation. They're strategizing about pitchers and forcing teams to go through their pitching staff. What are you hoping for, Rob?
Well, in my opinion, it's either one will be tough. I mean, they're both going to be a tough. You got two teams that won over 100 games this year that you have to face in a one-game playoff. But to me, the best case scenario for the Cardinal fans would be have the Dodgers and Giants tie for the West, and then they have to play game 163 on Monday. So you figure they're going to burn at least one of their really good pitchers in that game. But saying that, I think the Dodgers, even if Scherzer's pitching, anything can happen in one game. I mean, I'm not saying that the Cardinals would be favored, not saying they would automatically win, but I think they'd have a better chance of winning one game against the Dodgers than they would winning this best of 5 series against the Dodgers, simply because of the depth of their pitching staff. And I think that the Giants, while they've been a terrific team and have probably been the surprise team of the league, they just don't, I think, have that aura about them that the Dodgers do. And the Cardinals won the season series against the Giants, so I don't think they would be scared about them either.
Well, Rob, I know you used to travel, a little more and do some road games. Have you been back out on the road at all? And I know that our Cardinal announcers are basically doing the games, at the studio down there, kind of like in our house. Do you miss that? And once maybe by the time we get to next baseball season, it'll be a little bit more open. Are you going to be doing some road games?
Let's hope. Let's hope. Yeah, I don't travel as much to the big league games. When I travel now, I try to go to a lot of the minor leagues. I try to catch up a lot of the minor league games in Memphis, Springfield, Peoria. When the Cardinals are out of town, big league club, I try to hit those clubs, a couple of times each summer. And I did do that this summer. So yeah, not the degree of travel that I did when I was doing the National League, when I had to go around and see everybody at the different parks. But yeah, it is fun to be back down at the ballpark. I try to go to most of the home games if I can, depending on what's going on elsewhere. But it's been fun to have the fans back in the stands. It does make a big difference, and hopefully we'll get through this thing at some point this year and have everything be back to normal. Of course, we also have a CBA that we have to worry about before next season comes along. It expires in December. So knock on wood that they'll cooler sides will prevail and we won't have any kind of a work stoppage, because that would just be awful.
Rob, did you go to spring training this year?
I did.
Okay,
yeah.
all right.
Yeah, I try to do that usually pretty much the whole time. And they're maybe not all of spring training, but pretty close.
In terms of this, the CBA that you were talking about, what could go wrong? It's as you said, it's hard to imagine after a pandemic that those cooler heads wouldn't prevail. Yeah. But what are you most concerned about?
Well, obviously, it has to be financial concerns. I mean, I think that's the thing that's going to drive all the discussions. And it's just, are the owners happy with where things are? That the players are going to want concessions. They always do. I think one of the reasons you didn't have the DH in the National League this year was because the players saw that as a bargaining chip that they could use in their favor for the negotiations next winter. Some of the new rules are going to have to be negotiated by, because those were like the extra inning rules. Those were temporary rules because of the pandemic. So they have to decide if they want to keep those in place. They have to decide if they want to change the arbitration system, how many years you have to play to get arbitration. The union, of course, wants to get players paid more money earlier in their careers than, obviously there are more players who don't stick around long. And then, are you going to change free agency? Will that go to 5 years instead of 6? So there's just a lot of decisions. Like, are they going to end up talking about revenue sharing again? I mean, there's just kind of all kinds of every financial issue that you can come up with, they're going to be one that they have to talk about. And unfortunately, the two sides don't have the greatest history of working out labor agreements, but these are different people involved representing the union and representing the ownership group that have been there in the past. So, but they've got time. I mean, it's supposed to be due that the old contract expires December 1st, but other than maybe a free agent signing or trade or two that might happen over the winter months, really the deadline is February 15th. They just have got to get it done before spring training is scheduled to start.
Well, speaking of contracts, Arenado has announced that he's not going to opt out. Where does that take us? That takes us to next year, where he will be with us, and then we would have to negotiate a new contract with him?
No, he's got another opt-out after next year.
Okay.
That was in the original contract, but I think it's through 20. He actually got a year extended on the contract at the time of the trade, and that's why he got the opt-out at the end of this season. I think he signed through 27. If he doesn't opt out now, he's got one more of those to go through next year, and then he'll be here till the contract run out. Yeah, he's going to be here for a while.
Okay, now
which is a good thing.
Yeah, good thing. Now you mentioned it, and I think I already know what you're going to say. But please, God in heaven, no designated hitter in the National League. Come on, can I get in negotiations?
Just because you used to edit all my copy, and you could put in there whatever you wanted and say I said it. You don't have to put words out of my mouth now. No, you know me. I'm not a fan of the DH. Never have been. I always prefer the National League style of game, but I've realized that it's inevitable. So I've stopped fighting it and realized that it's nothing that we can do that's going to keep it from happening. It's going to happen.
Okay.
I'm going to veer off for just a second, and Sally is someone that I consider Just a terrific friend, and she is a journalist, a successful journalist in her own right. Are you two having? And I'm going to probably have to spend the night with you guys tonight, because after I blew my husband's baseball question, that's going to get me in trouble. But are you having fun together? It seems that you have always had just the best time working together. How does that work? How does that work in the media?
It works fine. I mean, she does a lot of the behind the scenes work on the website. She's the one that posts all the audio and does a lot of the newsletters and does the production side of things more than I do. Just go to baseball games and watch baseball games. But she does all the nuts and bolts kind of stuff of running the website, and then does her own writing on the side. Her new book's called Choose Happy, Finding Contentment in Any Situation, that came out a year ago. So we've done a couple of projects together. We did a book about kind of a travel log to the minor leagues. I mentioned going to the minor leagues. So she's always with me. So we wrote a book last year. Unfortunately, great timing. It came out right before they canceled the minor league seasons for the pandemic. And then 2 of the teams got eliminated in the contraction. But just kind of a travel guide book about what to do in all those cities and why you should go see some of those minor league games. So we've done a couple projects like that over the years together. And and that's why I joked about the pandemic, was it really didn't cause us any changes, because we all both work from home already. So
right.
Yeah, luckily we get along fine, and we have been able to coexist doing that. So we'll be celebrating our 40th wedding anniversary next February. So
that's awesome.
Very lucky.
We're good. I'm up to 38 now, so I'm a little bit right behind you.
Congratulations.
Yeah, there you go. Hey, talk about Rainbow for Kids, the charity that you've done so much work with over the years.
Yeah, we started that. We're on the 21st year now. Our niece, who was Sally's goddaughter, Ann Schiller, had a brain tumor when she was 6 years old, and so we started the charity to kind of give kids at Cardinal Glennon and some other places something to look forward to. Start putting on parties at the hospitals and things like that. It just kind of expanded. Still a grassroots organization, all volunteers, no paid employees. Our most recent project, we kind of cooperated with the city of Sunset Hills and built a handicap playground accessible playground at Watson Trails Park. Different than some, because a lot of the playgrounds like that, they say they're accessible, but you still have to lift kids in wheelchairs out of the wheelchair and put them on a swing and stuff. And this one, you can actually sit in the wheelchair and go up a ramp, and then you're on the swing while you're in your own wheelchair, as well as kind of a merry-go-round and some sound instrument equipment that the kids can do. So it was a lot of fun, a lot of project we were really invested in to see that happen. So we dedicated it earlier this summer. Whitey Herzog Youth Foundation gave us the last donation to kind of put us over the top in the fundraising campaign. So again, calling on some old friends for connections. But yeah, we have a trivia night coming up November 13th. You can get the information about that on the website. So.
All right, hey, all right, now before I forget, give us the website address. And everybody listen up, write this down.
Rainbowsforkids.org.
Okay.
Rainbowsforkids.org.
All right.
And you also can get there off of STL Sports page. There's a link on STL Sports page.
Okay.
Terrific.
All right.
Mo seemed to be able to create some magic when he needed to. In the off season, after we win the World Series, Rob, what do you still want to see the front office concentrating on?
Well, they're going to have some money to spend, because they've got a lot of players who are coming off the books that I think are not going to be back next year as far as new contracts go. So
Matt Carpenter.
Money to spend. Well, he's one of those guys. Carlos Martinez is in that group. Andrew Miller. I say there's some money. They've got to get Wainwright signed, which I think will happen. I don't foresee there being a trouble, but there's one kind of thing they still have to get off the to-do list. They've got to kind of figure out, a couple of roles for different guys. If Reyes is going to go to the rotation like the expectation is, then, who's going to come in line to replace him in the bullpen? Is it somebody they've already got out there, or do they need to bring in some outside? I think they probably need to add a bench bat or two. The way Sosa's played, at shortstop, maybe that changes their position as far as where they go out and look for a free agent shortstop or something like that. So, they'll always be creative. I mean, they've got a couple of good young players coming up in the minor leagues, but they probably are not as full of depth in the minor leagues as they have been in the past. So might be looking to up that a little bit.
Thank you.
All right. Rob Range, member of Missouri Sports Hall of Fame. I'm sure you weren't thinking that would happen one day. What was that experience like?
That was a lot of fun. Yeah. I write about people who go into the Hall of Fame. I don't, I still subscribe to, as Wendy will know, the old Bob Hyland school of thought is we report the news, we don't make the news. And I think that, I've kind of always had that mantra, but it was fun to be in there. I think it's a tribute to the fact that I've been around a long time, written a lot of books that have done well, and just plus all the daily stuff and the website stuff. So it was, it was fun. A big honor. Went in 2017, and I treasured it very much.
I know that this is the question I still have to ask you just as an observer, this ongoing Rams saga. You know, I know you're keeping up with all of that stuff. Yeah. How is, if you were a betting man, how is this going to end, Rob? Because a lot of people in St. Louis are talking about billion-dollar settlements. I'm the lunatic who still thinks we could get an NFL franchise out of it. You know, it's pretty wildly speculative at this point, but how do you read the tea leaves in terms of how this is all going to end?
I think from Stan Kroenke's standpoint and the NFL standpoint, they need to settle out of court, because I think that if they get in court, they're going to lose, and then then they can't control what the punishment is, you know, the punitive damages and all of that. So I think the other owners in the NFL are going to be mad at Kroenke basically, but I think they have to convince them that, you know, hey, you know, we've got to figure out what we can do to get out of this thing. So I think we got till January. I think that's when the trial is supposed to start in January. So the fact that they lost their bid to move the trial out of St. Louis, I think it was a sign that, you know, time is up. They just, you know, they botched the thing from day one. I mean, I think teams move all the time. I mean, there's different reasons why franchises move in every sport. So I think had they done it differently for a lot of different ways, a lot of different reasons, they probably could have moved and not had this reaction. But the way they botched it by all the secretive conversations and knowing they were going to do it while they were publicly saying, you know, we're supporting the efforts to revive the dome or build a new stadium, that's what's going to bite them. That's why they don't have a choice but to settle, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's funny. The Chicago Bears just bought Arlington Raceway outside of Chicago, and the debate up there is still have people saying like, they're not going to move out there. They'll always stay in Soldier Field. Right, that's this lone pinhead. And Ray Hartmann too said like, you know, we have a real problem. So yeah, it's playing out again in another city, and it will probably be a lot smoother, like you said. I know you do some other things on the website as well. I know it's mostly baseball, but you cover some other things as well, correct?
Yeah, we've got like a healthy lifestyle page. We got food, travel, things like that. Yeah, the things that, you know, we realize baseball fans are not one-dimensional. They have other interests besides just baseball. And that's the little world that I live in. So we try to include stuff like that, you know, on the site as well when we can.
Obviously, you've had a great deal of success navigating the world of social media, Rob. It's represented a real sea change.
Yeah.
Are you optimistic about sports journalism as we move forward, or a little tepid at this point?
Let me say this. I got dragged into Twitter kicking and screaming. I swore I was never going to do it. But I now, you know, my wife and Sally and everybody else says I just addicted to my phone. I'm just on there all the time scrolling, you know, see what the news is, because I was a news junkie before. So I guess this is just the way to get, you know, news now, especially sports news. And the thing that's changed because of social media is, you know, you used to have kind of, I remember, you know, being on the road in Philadelphia or someplace, and, you know, I go to the ballpark at, you know, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, but before that, I really had nothing I had to do. You know, I mean, I could go to breakfast and go, you know, take a walk or whatever. But now, you know, because you knew if something broke, you just get it when you got to the ballpark. You know, you've got to, if you had a scoop, you had a story, you know, then in the newspaper in the morning that nobody else had, they couldn't touch it for 24 hours till the next day's newspaper came out. You know, now scoops last about 15 seconds. So it's changed the pressure on the media, I think, as far as, you know, having to be always on 24/7 and never getting kind of a downtime. And I think, too, anybody can, you know, what's changed about it is anybody can have a website, anybody can have a blog. And I think sometimes have kind of separate who are the serious reporters and serious, not just in sports, but I think in any face of the media, who's the serious people and who's just in there as a fan or somebody trying to express their own opinion. So sometimes trying to figure out who's who in that landscape is difficult, I think. But I think the one thing about it is that, and I told the kids this when I was teaching at Webster for a number of years, is that, you know, even though the media business has changed, there's always going to be jobs for people, because, you know, you got 40,000 people at Busch Stadium covering, going to a Cardinal game. 40,000 people can't go down to the locker room and ask Paul Goldschmidt what he thought in the first inning when he came out to bat. You know, so there's always going to be somebody who has to do that job. Now, how the person gets that information from the player to the 40,000 people may change, but there's always going to be jobs, you know, to kind of be that messenger.
All right, Rob, we got one more World Series, in us here. Not that it would be the only one we win, but we're getting older, so.
Speak for yourself over there.
Oh, there we go. All right, Rob, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it. Go Cardinals. And
yeah, the postseason should be fun. I mean, that one-game showdown is, as I say, anything can happen in a one-game playoff, but you never know. But once they get past that playoff game, assuming that they win it, can get into that division series, then you got to think it's Milwaukee and Atlanta probably in the other side. So whoever comes out of that, we could be playing baseball deep into October. We'll just have to wait and see.
All right.
Definitely.
Well, say good night to Sally for us, and most importantly, go Jayhawks.
Oh.
All right. Thanks, guys, for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Thanks
Bye,
much, Rob. We'll see you guys next week on Donnybrook. Donnybrook Next Up.
Have a great weekend.
Donnybrook is made possible by the support of the Betsy and Thomas Patterson Foundation and the members of 9PBS.